Good morning, students. This is Venkatesh Rampilla, your biology teacher. In the last class, we discussed about different types of respirations: aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration means the respiration which takes place in the presence of oxygen. Anaerobic respiration means it takes place in the absence of oxygen. So in aerobic respiration, the glucose is completely oxidized into carbon dioxide and water. So in aerobic respiration, carbon dioxide released as a product. To prove this one, we are explaining with one activity. See, this is the activity which explains the carbon dioxide released in aerobic respiration. So what here you can observe it, activity 6.4, which is there in your textbook. Just to take two test tubes in fresh test tubes. Into each test tube take some amount of lime water, and in one test tube you can take the syringe and apply some amount of air into the lime water, and you can observe it that lime water will be converted into milky white precipitate. So lime water generally contains calcium oxide. So whenever you are applying some amount of the air containing carbon dioxide which react with the calcium oxide and it converts into calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate is a milky white precipitate. Okay. So similarly, in another test tube, you are taken and blowing the air. So whenever you are blowing the air, it also converting lime water into milky white precipitate. That means your blown air contains carbon dioxide. As a result, that lime water converted into milky white precipitate. So same in your breathe out, the breathe out exhalation gas you collect into the test tube and insert that gas into the lime water. It converts into milky white precipitate. It indicates that your breathe out also contains carbon dioxide. So by this activity we can understand that human beings are the organisms, are examples for aerobic organisms. That means in our body the respiration is an aerobic respiration. So the released gas is a carbon dioxide. It indicates that the carbon dioxide released in aerobic respiration. So that is about the activity for carbon dioxide released during aerobic respiration. And you see, this is the activity for anaerobic respiration. So in anaerobic respiration means it takes place in the absence of oxygen. Glucose is partially oxidized into carbon dioxide and ethanol. So that for here we are using an organism yeast. That means anaerobic respiration takes place in yeast, muscle cells, bacteria, etc. For here we are to explain that concept. We are taken example is a yeast. Here this is the yeast cell. It undergoes reproduction by budding. Okay. Now you can here in this picture you can observe there are two test tubes we are taken. In one test tube we are taken the lime water and lime water. In another test tube we are taken the glucose solution or sugar solution. And so the test tube in which we are taken the glucose solution, in this test tube we are adding some amount of yeast, that is baker yeast. So the yeast which is used for bread preparation, that yeast. And to this test tube we are fitted a cork with only one hold cork. So this test tube is connected with the other test tube with a bent tube. Now this setup is made and we are keeping this setup for about 6 hours or 1 day. So then you can observe it. Here initially we have taken the lime water. Afterwards what happened? It is converted into milky white precipitate. So it indicates that here there are some gas released. That gas is entered into this test tube through bent tube, because here there is no chance for the entry. Here and here we are all are covered the test tube with wax, so there is no chance. So there is some gas released here. So that gas is nothing but carbon dioxide, because lime water converted into milky white precipitate indicates the released gas is in a carbon dioxide only. Okay, so this is about anaerobic respiration. And here also you can observe it that sugar solution is lightly converted into some of oily layer. We can observe it upper surface. It indicates that some of the food material is not completely oxidized into carbon dioxide, and some intermediate products are produced. That intermediate products are nothing but some ethanol and etc. Okay, and come to the next case. So there are different organs are involved in different organisms for respiration. Based on the organism surface or organs involved, there are different kinds of respiration. The first type is direct respiration. Generally this type of respiration is found in unicellular organisms like aerobic bacteria as well as amoeba. So that means direct respiration means it is only aerobic, no, aerobic and anaerobic. So here they can absorb the oxygen directly the surface through diffusion process, through moist body surfaces, direct absorption. Then they are called as a direct mode of respiration. And another one is indirect. They can't take oxygen directly. Example is in a higher organisms. Example is in a higher organisms. Is indirect respiration, which is found in complex and higher forms. So here there are different types of respiratory organs are involved. For example, skin is a respiratory organ in annelids. Annelida means earthworm is a best example. Amphibians, frog is an example. And gills are the respiratory organs in the case of fishes. You can learn only fishes, that is enough. And lungs act as a respiratory organs in snail and amphibians, that means in some frogs, and reptiles, birds, mammals, including human beings are comes under mammals. These are the different types of respiratory organs. That means here direct respiration and indirect respiration. That means here direct respiration and indirect respiration, the two types are divided based on the absorption surface. In direct respiration, the organisms directly absorb the oxygen through diffusion process. In indirect case, they cannot absorb directly. There is no direct contact between the body cells and the respiratory medium. That means respiratory medium means atmosphere. And the next slide. So this is about the human respiration. We are going in detail about the human respiration. Okay, this is the detailed aspect is there. In human respiration, what is the mode of respiration in humans? Pulmonary respiration. Because if the respiration takes place through lungs, such a respiration is called pulmonary respiration. If the respiration takes place through skin, it is called cutaneous respiration. Through gills, gill respiration. Through trachea, for example, organisms like cockroach and many of the insects, respiration takes place through specialized structures called trachea. Such is called tracheal respiration. So like that, based on the type of the respiratory organ involved, There are different modes of respirations are there. Pulmonary respiration, cutaneous respiration, gill respiration, tracheal respiration. So in that, in human beings, what is the mode of respiration? Pulmonary respiration. What is the respiratory organ in the human beings? Lungs are the respiratory organs. Now here the picture explains or shows about what are the different parts of respiratory organ. Okay, so how the air enters and what takes place in the human respiration. You can observe it. So the main entry for the human respiration is see, these are the nostrils, nose contains the two holes. See here, the 1 and 2 holes, they are called nostrils. Nostrils are followed by the some nasal passage, and it moves into here. Our mouth cavity is also, both are connects each other at one point. That point is called pharynx. That's why pharynx is called as a common passage for the food as well as air. And that pharynx is followed by larynx. This is called voice box. Now we are telling everything, we are talking, the words are releasing because of this larynx. That's why larynx is called voice box. Larynx is followed by, you can observe here, this is the called as some of tube like structure is there now here, that is called trachea. And this trachea is contains, see here also you can observe it, steps like some steps like structures are observed. They are called rings of cartilage, which is followed by that branch, that total main branch, which is divided into two sub branches, here 1 and here 2. So one branch enters into the one of the lung lobe and another branch enters into the another lung lobe. That means our lungs having two lobes, left lobe and right lobe. Okay, so when this one of the branch enters, that branch is called as branchiae. That branch is called branchiae. That branchiae is again further dividing. See here, they are divided into small branches, and again they are divided into small branches. So now this structure is shown here, orange color. So this is called the main branchiae. This branchiae is again divided into small structures, and each small branchlet is called branchiole. Small branchlet is called branchiole. Now this branchiole, it ends into a small sac-like structures. That small sac-like structures are called alveoli. That small sac-like structures are called as alveoli. So this is about the how it can be moved into, okay, from one hair to another one. Now this is the passage of air through respiratory system. So this one everyone note down, and it is very important how the air will enters and how the air will comes. Passage of air and coming out both are same direction. Here you can observe it. So the passage, first they enters into the nostrils, then they enters into the nasal passage, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli. In the alveoli, the air contains oxygen is received by the blood capillaries, and the blood capillaries contains carbon dioxide released into the alveoli. That means here you can understand alveoli is the site for exchange of gases. Alveoli is the site for exchange of gases. Okay, now how it will take place. So now when the air is entered into our nostrils, that is having the rich amount of the oxygen, it finally enters into the where. So here they reaches till the end point is in a alveoli, where some blood capillaries are releasing some amount of the blood. That blood receives the oxygen from the air, and that blood contains hemoglobin. That hemoglobin takes that oxygen, and that oxygen is carried into the different tissues by blood itself. Now again, the same blood carrying carbon dioxide released by the different tissues into the same point alveoli, there it releases, and again the same carbon dioxide moving outside through alveoli to bronchioles, bronchi, trachea, larynx, pharynx, same way they coming outside. So based on this one, in human respiration, how it will enters and how it will comes under, this is the passage of air and passage of air outside and inside. So here there are two steps are involved. The first step is called inhalation and the second step is called exhalation. In inhalation, what happening? During inhalation, see here, this is called as thoracic cavity. This is the abdomen, this is the rib cage area. Inside the rib cage area, this area is contains thoracic cavity. Now you can observe here, this is the rib cage. Inside the rib cage having some hollow space, that is called thoracic cavity. Okay, so now you can say this is called chest cavity. Chest cavity. So during inhalation case, what happen? The thoracic cavity or chest cavity expands. The thoracic cavity or chest cavity expands. That means ribs are lift up. Then between this thoracic cavity and our stomach area, between the area, both are connected by a layer. See here, this is the diagram. This is the thoracic cavity area and here it is an abdominal cavity. Between the thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity, a line is made. That line is called diaphragm. Now the diaphragm is when you are inhaled air, thoracic cavity expands, ribs lift up, diaphragm flat. The volume of the lungs increases. That is the things are happen in inhalation. Okay, that's why shown here. Inhalation, air enters, ribs are lift up and lungs are automatically increases their volume. See, this is the volume increases. This diaphragm will be flat up. And in exhalation process, thoracic cavity, what happened? It contracts. Before it relaxes, now it contracts. Now ribs are moved downwards. Diaphragm will be converted a flat shape into dome shape. See here, the diaphragm will be converted into dome shape. The volume of the lungs decreases. Then air comes to outside. So exhalation means releasing of air from inside to outside. Inhalation means the intake of air from outside to inside. This is the basic difference between exhalation and inhalation. So what happens means, you can observe when inhalation case, the air enters into the nostril, nasal passage, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, such a way it moves. Okay, so whenever this oxygen containing the air containing oxygen is received by the blood, and again it releases carbon dioxide, and that again carbon dioxide comes to outside. So this is the way, what are the different parts of human respiratory system, how the air passes through respiratory system, and what happens in exhalation and inhalation. And along with that, you can also note down one more important 2 points. The 2 points are, our human lungs are two-lobed structure. Okay, and where it is present? Inside the thoracic cavity. The lungs are covered with a layer. That layer is called as pleura. That layer is called as pleura. Once again I am telling you, the lungs are covered with a layer is called as pleura. Okay. So what are the sac-like structures present in lungs? They are called alveoli. What is the site for exchange of gases? Alveoli is the site for exchange of gases. What are alveoli? Alveoli are small sac-like structures present in lobes of lungs. Lobes of lungs. Okay, so this is about the structure of human respiratory system and what happen in the human respiratory system. Okay, so at the end, today this is today's our class. Okay, finally everyone please write a notes on human respiratory system. Write the differences between exhalation and inhalation, and draw the diagram of the human respiratory system, and read the activities of carbon dioxide released during aerobic respiration and fermentation process in anaerobic respiration. Thank you.